All right, I'm beginning here now. I think we're good to go. Our little pre-talks here, which is great. Eric, it's wonderful to have you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And I like our pre-talk that we had earlier, so I have some good ideas from our pre-talk for future discussions. I think that you're a wealth of information as well, sir. Um, let's talk about some virtual stuff. First off, let's talk about you and how did you get involved in Raw Deal? Period.
So I started card games by playing Pokemon back in elementary school in the late 90s with my one friend I still have from school, Scott. So we befriended one another with our interests. Like, you like Pokemon cards? I like Pokemon cards. So we'd go to our local store and we'd play in events. Then we saw people playing a WWE card game. We're like, what's this? So this was around the Mania Survivor Series era of the game. So he picked up a Chris Jericho starter. I picked up a Booker T starter, and it just all snowballed from there. You know, we've been playing it since, I don't know, 2002, 2001. Yeah, now it's 19, 18 years later. And I mean,
now you're heavily involved in even more than you ever thought you're going to be.
Oh yeah, like I actually had a hiatus for a few years in the mid 2010s where it's just you get exhausted from the game, and I didn't play it for a solid 4 years, and it was always classic. And so then Scott had brought up, I believe locally, about the virtual sets, and I was like, what is this stuff? This is ridiculous. Like, look at these effects, which a lot of people you see now that are coming back into the game. You know, they're digging through their collections, they're looking at virtual and like, what's with all these purple cards, all the backstage and pre-match? You know, why is everything a multi? What's this cannot be responded to? I was that person on the like hardest of the hardcore people against virtual.
So you were really solidly against virtuals like that. Like, at what release did you know about Virtual 1, or did you come into like Virtual 2, 3?
I couldn't tell you that. Like, we started playing when Virtual 7 was coming out. I believe that is 2016, 2017, around there. We started doing events, like tournaments at our local store at the end of 2015. So we would play for store credit because you can't get prizing anymore for the game. So everyone would pitch in their $5 for the table fee. And then we would, you know, top four would get like their $5 back, and then second and first would get a larger pool of it. And that's when I got into making alternate arts. You know, digging through the forums and, you know, the Google, there's old templates there. So I just started making alternate art cards of classic cards. You know, Yours Graceful as a Cow on Ice, like Turn Up the Heat, like a lot, Road to Victory, Champ is Here. A lot of those cards that are not as readily available to get, you make an alternate art with updated superstars, because we're playing with stuff that's 15 years old at this point, you know, and there's nothing current. So then we did that for a year or so, and then classic Raw Deal was starting to get really stale locally, because you know, it's almost like every idea has been done, unless you're doing some really, like, you know, outside of the woodwork ideas that don't work because you have people building the regular decks.
You just do them for fun.
Right. And then, but it doesn't work well because not everyone else is. So it's like, well, okay, we'll try virtual out reluctantly. So we started getting into it when Virtual 7 was releasing, but we started playing with just Virtual 1 and 2 only. Virtual 1 was the big first release, so it was a lot of non-superstar specific cards with the new superstars, and everyone got support that was previously released in the game.
It was a massive release.
And then Virtual 2 was only superstars, which was the ECW and WCW superstars. So we did that for 2 months. And then after that 2 months, we added Virtual 3 and 4. 2 months after that, 4 and 5. 2 months after that, we got to do 7, and I think the holiday set had come out at that point, which was a lot of the NXT guys.
Yeah, I'd like to see you got in the next NXT generation was Virtual 7. That's the last time I actually contributed to any card designs. I actually created because Adam Kreitz said so, and the best there is, the best there was.
And the Kreitz said so was a card I've been running recently in my Bella decks. So with getting into virtual, I mean, I was all on board after that first set. I'm like, oh, this is all so new. This is all great. And what virtuals also was able to do for our players that weren't, they weren't able to be competitive like a lot of our competitive players. You know, you have your regulars. You get that with any game anywhere. You have your kind of your tier, top echelon players.
In SoCal, the
Well,
same
now,
thing. We'd always had the same, 3, 4 guys that were always the guys you had to beat if you wanted to break through the next levels like that. You had your Drews and you had your Vicks and the guys. I mean, these were the guys who were the best, and you had to step up your game. You want to be, like them. So yeah.
But what virtual was able to do for our area is now these our local players that didn't excel like a lot of regular players. Well, now they're able to.
Mm-hmm.
They were making top 4. They were getting these alternate art top prizes. They were able to contribute competitively because now they're all for it, trying this new stuff, trying new wrestlers, and we had local players that were still hesitant to trying virtual because it was new stuff. I mean, and it's fan made sets where it's like, it goes against what the theory of Raw Deal was.
So
before.
with that start right there, with that thing right there, is so how big is your play group? How many were accepting of virtual? Because virtual gets a lot of shit from a lot of people outside of stuff, especially other countries, especially in Chile has their own thing. They do their own stuff. They make amazing stuff down there. But there seems to be some sort of hesitance of getting involved in virtual. A lot of it is based on like, well, you took my Eugene guy and you neutered him, or you took my Piper and you neutered him. It's like that. I don't like that. I don't like not winning every time. So, I mean, was your group overall acceptant of virtual? I mean, you yourself weren't.
I'd say more than half of the players were. I mean, we're going back almost 5 years at this point, so it's a little fuzzy, but majority of it were because we were ready to try something new. You can only do a bash variant of the different superstars so many times, and all the non-specifics are the same, and you're getting those negative play experiences like straight shooting interview, shoot counters, like that combination that only you get tired of that after a while. So like our play group at its max was about 12 people at a time. Now this is going 2015, 2016. Now since then it's dropped down. Some people have sold their collections. Some don't travel like they did before to come and play Raw Deal.
We call that life interferes, what we call it.
Right. And then what type of time do you want to invest in a game that's not being actively produced for retail to get the prizes that are also associated with it? But now I feel that like our group as a whole is accepting to it, and we've actually had a few players come back, maybe briefly, but they've come to try out virtual at the very least. I mean, people still sour on it because, oh, this card's unfair, this card's unbalanced. But I mean, so was it's all about the game, U.S. title calling you out old school.
So was Andre as just an ability.
Yeah. I mean, Bobby Lashley, I mean, if you get the right opening hand and your opponent doesn't, like that's game over.
We had a great discussion yesterday about Bash, and Lashley actually got ranked last out of that release as far as strong abilities and stuff like that. Like he was like, he was all right. I mean,
I've lost to Lashley on the first turn back in the day, so it's like, but I mean, any card game, it's luck or draw. I mean, that's what comes with backlash decks where you can manipulate that sort of stuff.
Sure.
And that's a big thing people have against virtual is the backlash deck expanded. Your pre-match phase, can take more time than the actual gameplay, and your backstage area, and you're trying to manipulate everything, get it all set up. And that was a big hesitation for some of our players where it's like, there's so many purple cards, you have to learn everything. But with us learning it two sets at a time, you're able to grow accustomed to these non-specifics. So now I could play a game with the majority of my local players, and it's like, okay, I know what that does. Same goes with superstar specifics. We got into a habit where it's like, okay, here are my backlash deck specifics that you should know. They could be troublesome. Like I have a 0-for-3 mid-match reversal. I'm going to let you know what it is because we're still trying to have everyone learn the format, so everyone can have fun with the format rather than winning, because like what is there to really win with the game now? Unless you're doing like a Worlds at Gen Con, or like what FunCon was, or the North American Championship, is you want everyone to learn. That way, when you want to do those rare large scale events, everyone is able to do the best they can.
Interesting. Yes. You know, in our group, for when I was in the SoCal group running that, I don't recall ever having any resistance at all from anybody. Matter of fact, most didn't know. Like, I was on the ground floor with Virtual One, knowing that it was coming out, and I saw it. And most of the guys didn't go to TCO to see that stuff. So here I was having these monthly events at my house or wherever we go to meet, and I would have to go like every week sitting there watching CSI, and I'm printing out all 16 sets. So in case we had our full 16 show up, and having glue sticking them to actual cards or sliding on paper, to give them away as prizes or just entry. Like, hey, you came to play, so here you go. Here's a Bret Hart set. Here's an Ultimate Warrior set. It's like, holy shit, where did you get these from? These are awesome. Did you do it? No. And I wouldn't tell them where I got it. They started learning a little more where they got it, but nobody ever had any resistance to it at all. None. Now they would critique, but they would critique said like, this is overpowered. This is like, they'd have that sticker shock without actually really playing it to figure out what was going on, Like, everybody's like, oh, LOD, and they're broken. I mean, well, have you played it? Have you played it all the way through like that and seen how it works? And so we didn't have that kind of resistance at all, I guess. But
and then when that was first introduced, they didn't have the art quality that there is now.
Of course not.
With the virtual sets.
Nope.
So, which is surprising that it didn't meet with resistance, because it's like, oh, this is inconsistent with the existing cards.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have any real purists per se, in the sense that it had to be everything exact. Now, my partner who helps me run VelaCards, he's very much a purist. Like, it has to be, he is so much a purist that he hated the fact that, when we developed about 85% of Rev 4. That was mine and his concept. Creed said, yeah, go ahead. You want to do some Revolution stuff? Go for it. So we did it. We play tested every night from godly hours, and just sent it over to Creed. But he's more of a purist. And so, like, he didn't want any references. He hated when they made updates to our work to have to make references to classic cards or classic this. And he's like, I don't like that, man. It's like, it's Revolution. It has nothing to do with that shit. It's like, well, you and I are thinking Revolution, and that's all we care about. But there's an all access world we have to worry about too, and they got to protect that. So, like, I get it. Fuck all access. I'm like, I get it. I'm with you on that, man. I'm totally with you on that. But so he hates that stuff. But otherwise, we never had any resistance to anything that came with virtual stuff. I mean, they loved it. It was just new and exciting stuff. It was not the old stagnant crap that we were always doing. And when we're doing just straight up classic stuff before that, we would mix things up by having a masquerade party theme stuff where you built a superstar and built it. It's all legal. And then you would randomize, and you get a whole new superstar to build your play your decks like that. And I'd have like 25 predetermined characters that were still kind of open-ended. So it didn't matter if you built a heat deck or something like that, whatever. You could be, Victoria's a good example. You can have her ability that works well with any format, and have stuff like that.
I had a few months back in Classic where every month I'd bring in a new superstar, but it's the same base of a deck. So it was I think it was a heat deck. So it's like, okay, Al Snow 1 month, okay, swap out his specifics for a new person and just keep doing that over and over. It's you get to learn your mechanics on how to improve upon it then. And then that stuff really matters when you're going to then the qualifiers to try to go for that big prize.
We did that with Rev 3. Mike and I would do that with Rev 3. It's like that. We just like swap out, like, okay, well, I built a Ric Flair, it's like that, and then he'd build an Elijah Burke, it's like that. Like, okay, we take an Elijah Burke and take the same build from Elijah Burke. So I'm just gonna throw Tommy Dreamer in there now instead. Take him out, and I'm gonna go ahead and put CM Punk in there now. Just kind of try it out. That didn't work so well, but you learn your mechanics like that, what actually kind of works, and it was fun. So before you get into virtual stuff now, and now you guys are growing your play groups like that. At what point did you become part of the virtual play testing? Because you went from someone who didn't want to do any virtual stuff to actually getting your play group to play virtual stuff. Then you become a play tester, and now you're running the show.
So with Scott and I doing the Backlash podcast for a year there to bring new raw deal work, raw deal content out into the community. You know, that's when I started speaking with Creed. It's like, hey, we're starting up the show. Like we were doing it, like we were dropping it cold, like day one. Hey, this is how it, like this is what we have. So I reached out to Creed beforehand, where it's like, this is what we're doing. I've never talked with him before. If anything, I was more of a nuisance on the forums at this point. You know, just one of those, virtual stinks, cause issues for the developers, and just my opinion was louder than what their answers were.
At this point, you weren't even part of like the closed private groups at all, so like discussing. You were just in the public. Right.
Yeah, I was just another user. We decided to do a podcast, so he gave us some card hints going into that. So that's what started Creed and I's dialogue with the virtual sets. And then from there, we decided to go to Illinois. Now we're like, our group, we're located an hour north of Toronto. So we drove 13 hours to go play in, I forget where it is. It's over by Dubuque. I feel bad. It was FunCon that one of the players there decided to put on one of their conventions. We got to meet Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and the prize, he decided to get a replica world heavyweight title. Now we were fortunate, Scott and I, we were able to make the top 4, which kind of added a bit of credibility to, we have a podcast. Oh, guess what? We're decent players.
Also good players.
We're not just blowing smoke up everyone's asses. And that just created some more conversations. Crasher was a big advocate for me to join the team, because him and I would talk, quite frequently, just through the forums, through, I can't remember if it was Discord or the Facebook groups, but we were able to talk. And, that's what got me into the playtesting group for, I think it was Virtual 9. I was like, Finn Balor was like a big playtesting project for me, either he comes in as the full demon getup, or he's coming in with the whole Balor Club leather jacket idea. And then, so that's what got me into playtesting, and Scott as well. He was a big part of the playtesting group. He's a lot of like the math analytics, the percentages. You're drawing 6 cards, or you're doing that overturn 6 cards. Well, when he started saying this, like, that's 10% of your deck you're losing, it's like, that was a big aha for me, because I never looked at it that way. So that helps me with the development of things, or just looking at numbers, where it's like there's more to it than just, you're losing 6 cards of your 60, where you start looking at percentages. And
he's a funny guy, because we met him only once. He came because I guess he has family in California.
Yeah.
And I was living in Rancho Cucamonga at the time, and he's like, oh, well, my in-laws live in Rancho Cucamonga. It's like that. So he came out there and he played in one of our tournaments, and he won the damn thing too. It's like, how dare that guy come in our own house and he did our own format too. He played Revolution.
It's a secret Canadian tech, the old break the hold.
Yeah. But he came in. That's my only interaction with him is like that. So it was fun to actually meet him. So it's important to have that guy on your teams like that. Mike was my go-to guy to talk about Revolution stuff and bounce ideas. It was through him that I built that original when Rev 3 came out. I jumped all over the Ric Flair deck right away, took advantage of corners and the drafted and all that stuff like that, which I gave it to Drew, and Drew took it with him for back-to-back years and won worlds with it. So it was fun to kind of manipulate that stuff and sit there and bounce ideas off somebody. And it sounds like Scott's that guy for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, we came up into the game together, starting at the same time, and we always were progressing at the same level. I know he's a better player than me, because he beat me at FunCon. He was able to make the top cut because of that, and we didn't play each other there, but no, I think he has more wins under his belt than me over the years.
Nice.
And then going into the playtesting and actually starting with if you want me to start talking about the development end of things.
Yeah, absolutely. You get in, and at what point did Creed and those guys say, hey, let's bring Eric over into the playtesting groups like that, committees like that with our next release? And how to develop from there? You went from there becoming the new guy in the playtest just like that, and now here you are. You're the king of the throne.
Well, a lot of it started where from playtesting I started doing some of the graphic design. Superstar cards is like it's like a drug. Like I absolutely love doing alternate arts. And then I mean, if you dig through the Facebook pages, the different Chili fantasy arts, like it's there. You have to look for it. Like when I first started fantasy cards and everything, I didn't have an inside source. You know, I didn't remake existing cards, blanking out text to make new templates.
Mm-hmm.
I dug and found what was there. So it started with superstar cards, and I actually have it. I have a few little show and tells here with me.
Oh, our first ever show and tells. Love this.
So it started on Discord. I'm more of a rather than ask for permission, ask for forgiveness later kind of guy. So, and a big thing with the virtual sets has always been don't make alternate arts. You know, respect the efforts that the team puts into them, and then just appreciate what we've done. Don't make an alternate art of it. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to let anyone tell me what to do. So I shared a Cody Rhodes on the Discord, which is in my main deck here. So it doesn't even reflect his WWE persona. So it really goes against what virtual has established. And from there, he reached out and he was like, hey, would you like to work on making alternate arts for the sets? So you'll see some of the holiday releases and Survivor Series. The superstar cards, I was able to make them. So it was a lot of the ones with like the title belts, the holiday releases. I was like, oh, like it's my first real part of doing the development end. Even though it's only graphically, it's more than what a play tester does, because this is from the ground up manufacturing of a card. Even though it's just images, that superstar card, as far as I'm concerned, is the most important part of a deck.
Yep. It's what sets the tone of what you're about to play.
Exactly. So, I mean, if I'm going to play like a Triple H, for example, you look when Comic Images was making the game, you could have Triple H from the very beginning with like that early D-Generation X all the way up to like his Evolution persona. Even in Revolution, you know, he changes his look throughout it. So being able to do a part of that, I was ecstatic. You know, like that's the first foot in the door, you know, getting access to the superstar logos and then putting that. I didn't even get that at first. I was doing just a background and the character's portrait without the templates, and that's how I would send it. And then he would add it onto his own virtual proper.
Gotcha.
And then from there, you know, you gain the trust through just, you know, working beside someone like that after a while, and you start getting more resources, and it goes from there. And then from that point, I got onto development proper. And we did, I can't remember if it was one set or two. You get ideas in there, or they already have an idea of a foundation of a set. And then at that point there, I was asked if I wanted to take it over. And a lot of it is from like community engagements, just discussing with people. You know, you have good ideas out there, and yeah, he was just ready to kind of move on to the next step of his life, because, you know, I mean, look at the work Creed did. Like he did like 12 years, 10 sets, or like, I guess it would be 9 sets plus the holiday sets, plus alternate arts. You know, doing a set's a whole lot of work, like all the back end things, and then especially making it available on the online platforms. Then Lackey, now we've moved on to Octagon. There's just a whole lot involved, and he did most of it on his own. So I give him all the credit in the world. Where, you know, he has his fans, he has people that doesn't like him.
We all do. Clearly, we all do.
Yes, but there's no denying the fact that he himself is a machine to able to do all this and then take the brunt of the negative aspects of the community on top of it, and still be willing and still be motivated to produce the sets when he was.
He's been talking about, I told a story in one of our sessions where we had a player named Alan, and he was in California, and it's when Creed was living in Oklahoma. And literally the same week, or within the same week time frame, Creed moved from Oklahoma to California, and Alan coincidentally moved from California to Oklahoma. And I'm like, yeah, I think we got a better in the deal on that trade. You know, it's like, and I just know that the amount of time and effort he put into everything, so like that, like you said, he does have. There were people that really got under his skin. It's like that, but you kind of have the weight of everything on your shoulders when it comes to raw deal stuff because the buck stops with you and everything rolls on you, and people don't appreciate it and saying, I'm doing this on my own free time. And, it's like no one's getting. I'm not getting paid for this. For all this development, I'm not getting paid for all these ideas and sitting down and having to flesh all this stuff out. People just don't get that. So it's my hats off to him, to you for having to do all this time and effort and put in something, a game that you guys love. But it's a lot of work. And in my minimal little effort of putting in for Rev 4, it was a lot of work just from a development standpoint. I didn't do any graphics. It was just, we literally take like Post-it notes and like put them in a sleeve, like what this card's supposed to do. It's like that. That's how we play tested.
Mm.
It's a lot of work. I don't think people appreciate that really.
But I mean, with Virtual 11, I haven't been as available as I would like. Like we started early development around the holiday set release. Like we redubbed it Then Now Forever because we don't want to do the large scale holiday releases.
Yeah.
That had been done previously. But just with work and real life interferences, I've been really lucky. Not lucky because it's like the team that we have in development now is like they're all stars. Big Pimpin, Dilbert, who's now he took over for the head of the rules management for Nate. Crasher, Scott Mackey has been doing a great job. I've got Evan Hogtrail, or Hot Grail as I call him. I'm sure I'm missing a few, but those are the key vocal ones where they have been keeping the brunt of the development and playtesting for Virtual 11 going on. Just because of my inavailability. And then it goes to show where it's like, oh, I got to catch up for 2 weeks of stuff. It's like, holy cow, it made me really appreciate what the previous team did for the game and took the brunt of it on themselves. Because it's like, you couldn't stop. Like there was no breaking it because, I mean, everyone right now is salivating for new content.
But there always are. And I think it's kind of the problem is that a lot of players want to have everything that's like now, like the current person now. It's like, well, a lot of things haven't happened. Like, well, that person hasn't developed their character yet on TV. We have no idea how to kind of really develop them just yet. Or we're still working on people who still deserve to be put in the game that haven't been put in the game yet. And it's like, how do you determine, and I haven't asked Creed this, I should have asked him this. How do you determine how big a set's going to be? Like, why have such a large set? Why even have a 100 card set? Why not just make, 2 superstars now, play test the shit out of them, get them done, and then put them out. There's no official release dates. There's no time frame. Just get them out.
So with my methodology for it, I wanted to make it kind of mirror what Comic Images was doing. Have a set like 8 to 10 superstars with their size of superstar sets. It varied for Virtual 10 was the first one that I took lead development for. The NXT superstars had smaller superstar sets versus the WWE guys. They had larger ones because NXT is such a large card pool of exclusive cards for them. So the idea there is like, okay, let's roll back on their specifics. Now the idea is everyone can get superstar support going forward, but like Johnny Gargano and Ciampa don't need a larger card pool. And we dealt with a big uproar, not a big uproar, but there were vocal people who were like, oh, this Johnny Gargano is unbalanced. He's broken. He's going to be doing everything. And that for me was a culture shock being in the position I'm in now, because you try not to take it personally.
Of course.
But it's like, what are you talking about? We had a playtester, go 0-4 with him. And we had another playtester do better with him. But, we have the facts and data to show it with our internal communications, where we have a player looking at it, and you mentioned earlier, it's the sticker shock of it, where it's like you look at it, oh, this is unfair, unbalanced. But as we see with some online tournaments that have been going on, he's not performing like people were expecting. I'm losing track of myself, but we'll go to Elias in Virtual 10. I had a local guy here, I think it was Scott. He nearly won every game with Elias, where we had another playtester couldn't win a game with Elias. So it's different metas and different players trying out different things. And And that's a tough balance when it comes to play testing because we're a small group. Well, what happens when it gets out there to the 20 to 100 players there are in the game right now? What issues are they going to find? What are going to have to be errata? What cards are people going to have to reprint? A year from
the
now.
beauty about virtual is that you can make those edits on the fly if you need to. And it's like, oh, we'll just put another one out then, if you need to.
And so with determining the size of a set, the idea is in a perfect world, we want to do 2 set releases a year, like the larger scale sets, and then the holiday set is going to be Then Now Forever, which originally the theme was going to be the Ghost of Christmas Past, Present, Future, which is why Then Now Forever has Pete Dunne, because Then Now Forever, you think forever would be a wrestler that had passed away or a legend.
Sure.
But the theme was in development before the name change was, so there's going to be a change with that. But the idea is the holiday set, it's Christmas time, it's busy. Okay, you need to print off 2 pages, and then there's your holiday set. So something that streamlines it, but their support and their abilities are going to be better to accommodate their lack of cards, because we don't know when the next set will come out. We don't know when we'll be able to give them future support. But like, we're putting in characters I don't think you would really see in virtual, because we're trying to keep current, but also try to accommodate for the wants of some people. That's why you saw Jim Cornette in that holiday set.
Yeah. And some of that stuff for those older guys we talked about before in other discussions, where it's just hard to find images for some of those guys to support their move set or to support whatever theme that character is. It's like, I know the Hardcore Holly gets mentioned a lot, and the fact that he's referenced on a card. I think even Chris Nowinski's even mentioned on a card or something like that as well, because he's a GRA. But it's hard to find those images. We'll just do a DVD screenshot.
And no, I've tried that to get screenshots. I got the network through the free trial using a US proxy just to try to screenshot stuff for images. And it doesn't work because you have those motion blurs, and you can't do it. Like, I had an idea for Chris Jericho to get Alpha Club into the game because he wore the shirt in a backstage segment on Raw, but you just can't find a good enough picture. I mean, Alpha Club is an outside WWE reference, but hey, if it was on programming and you could see it, we're going to try to fit it in there.
Sure.
But I mean, it's the fans, it's the players that keep the game going. It keeps the development and the play testers motivated to keep making this stuff. So we want to bring out superstars and bring out cards that the people want, so their voice can be heard as well. So it's like, we hear Hardcore Holly. Well, he was a big distraction from us trying to add more cards into Virtual 11, because it was like, oh, here's these ideas for Hardcore Holly, and we actually had a developer is like, hey guys, everyone's getting distracted. Not everyone. It's like, Eric, you're getting distracted.
Yeah, I think I read that thread.
And it's like, we need to focus. We have the shell of the set. We have half of it in play testing. So it's like, we do Hardcore Holly later on, and we intend on it. Like, Kairi Sane's a big popular one right now. Yeah, of course we're going to put her in the game. We're going to get references for her and Asuka, the Kabuki Warriors, in it. It's just we have to do what we have already, what's already rolling forward, and then we could put these other superstars in future sets.
Well, I had asked Creed, so I'll ask you as well. So why even flesh out a whole set for someone like a Hardcore Holly, just because he's referenced on a previous card and back in Classic Raw Deal? Why not make him a promo guy? Just make an ability and give him 1, maybe 2 card support. And that's it. And then build on him later.
But it comes, well, who comes before Hardcore Holly if you're even going to do a promo superstar? I mean, Steve Blackman has his logo on several cards.
Why not?
It's a matter of what fits a theme of a set. Who is kind of a priority over that for playtesting time and development? So it goes back to, we're all donating our time, we're all volunteering, and you get thanks and a handshake, and you get to play it released with other players when it comes out. So do you really want to put emphasis on putting Hardcore Holly in the game, even though he's a promo superstar? You still need to give it that playtesting dedication that an Adam Cole would need even though Adam Cole may be 8 to 10 specifics, you still need to make sure that Hardcore Holly is a quality superstar coming out. Even though you could have bias where it's like, oh, I'm putting it in there just because they want it. No, you need to make sure that those people who want to build that deck are getting a quality superstar, and then their time's not wasted.
I only bring it up because I know they've done it in the past with like a Masters and a DX, where they just kind of, that's it. There's not even a support card for DX. It's just DX. They don't really need it because of the ability, but Masters has that one card he shares with Carlito. But it just seems like it'd be kind of it'd quiet people down, because there's like this big thing about Hardcore Holly for years about him. But it's interesting to find out, to think about all the different things that go into deciding which decks you're making and which ones you're not making, superstars you're making. So it's like the size of the sets. Some guys were very vocal about, like, you're wasting all your time making a 500 card set. Why the hell do that? Why not just break it up into sections and give us like 100 cards here, 100 cards here, kind of thing. So it's a hard thing to figure out, I guess. I'm not sure.
And then that's the idea with the holiday sets, is to do those equivalent of promo superstars. Because it was Jim Cornette, Lacey Evans, Pete Dunne. Jim Cornette, it's going to be harder to get more cards for him because of photo availability, and just because Jim Cornette really need a lot of cards, being an enforcer-based superstar. Lacey Evans was newer on TV, and we weren't putting references to NXT. She was called up at a certain point, so she wasn't getting that NXT card support, because we're trying to keep things as current as we can with superstars. And Pete Dunne has his fan base. You could do a full-fledged superstar set with him, but at the early part of development, he was our future star. So you get him in the game and then give him his larger support later on. But he had his own certain deck mechanics with split finger locks. That was his whole theme, where he's doing that finger manipulation. So that's the holiday sets we want to be our promo superstars, because it's difficult to just put out a promo superstar with even if you do a single superstar card, because you have your sheets. You need people to go out and print things. You don't want to give them a page with just 1 or 2 cards to go print off, because it's a waste of the resources. It's easy now to do the online updating, but then they have to manually do all their image updates in Octagon. So it's like, hey guys, we have 1 new card. Oh, be sure to download the latest image pack for it if you want to keep current. So me personally, I got to keep in mind everyone's time. You want to put out something substantial for people to put that effort in order to build it. I saw that with Elias. I put him out as a promo superstar. I printed off ones where the whole double-sided with, it's like, oh, hey, here's your teasers of who's coming in. But my print sheet I did for make people available, it was 4 superstar cards, and it was 4 Honky Tonk Man cards that were referenced on the superstar card. Okay, now you need to go drive to Staples, go print off this one sheet just to pack 1 or 2 cards in this new deck you want to build. So it's everyone's time is valuable. So
I had that problem when I was printing out all the virtual stuff in the beginning for the play group. I only have like 1 card in the sheets like that. I have all the other sheets, but there's 1 card. It's like, well, I guess I can print out some more, belts as prizes, I guess, or something. I don't know. It's felt the sheets. You want to make it worth your time to go out there and print it.
And not everyone has the resources to fill out a sheet like that. They're relying on the available sheets to just copy it onto a thumbstick or copy it onto their phone and go out and print it. Because, not everyone has Microsoft Word. I had to acquire it in order to do a lot of the stuff I wanted to do, because I rely so heavily on Photoshop. And it's just, you can't line it up like you can in Microsoft Word to make a clean print sheet.
Sure. Makes sense. Okay. So, when did you officially take over for Virtual? Like Virtual 10 is your baby, your official time when you took over, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so at what point, like what year, what time did you really have a serious discussion with Creed to say, you're like, listen, I think you're the right guy. I'm going to kind of pass the reins off to you. There'll be a transition period, then we'll make an announcement. Like, at what point did that happen?
Oh man, I think it was 2018. Towards the end of the holiday set. I don't have notes for that, unfortunately. Sorry.
Well, I've dealing with Creed all the years like that. Every year he's like, yeah, the end is coming, the end is coming, the end is coming, like every year for like 7, 8 years. Like the end is coming.
I mean, yeah, I mean, because him and I, like, we talked in great frequency during that time because I was helping getting images for virtual cards, which is the most time-consuming thing about making cards, is getting the right picture for your card title you're going to do. And yeah, I mean, you get a sense where when someone's like, you know, ready to hang it up kind of thing. And then that's when he approached me. He goes, "Hey, I think you're the right guy to take it over. Do you want to take it over?" And I was like, okay, you know, it's not April 1st, you know, is this a bit of a joke? And it's like, no, like he was genuine about it. And yeah, I gladly took it. I already had ideas in mind to want to, you know, get what superstars did we want to get in there. And it was a matter of, you know, putting the boots to the ground. You know, we used most of the already existing team in development. I added a few new people that, you know, I knew would do well, that I could rely on. And then, yeah, we pushed out Virtual 10 quick.
Yeah, that was a really quick turnaround on that.
Yeah, I mean, the mistakes were certainly made with it. You know, I hear a lot of criticism of Revival. You know, hey, they have cards that work against their other cards. And that was a learning experience for me, trying to appease people in development and play testers. You know, you're trying to mix different ideas into a superstar, and there's sadly they're a casualty. You know, what I did to them is what WWE did to them.
Yes, it's very thematic. It worked well.
Yeah. So, but I mean, you have to learn. I mean, you don't know what you're doing wrong until it's done wrong. But we pushed them out real quick. We got the holiday set out quick. So now Virtual 11 is not going to come out quick because there's more deliberate choices made with it. And it's the time availability as well. It's not there like it was for me personally with Virtual 10 and the holiday set. But we want to bring out the best product for everyone. And I mean, Creed isn't like removed himself from Raw Deal entirely.
Oh no, I still see him and Nate are still dabbling around here and there. It's like that. There's still a transition period of some sort a bit, but you know, there's still that in his heart of still wanting to play the Raw Deal thing and still have some sort of say in it.
Yeah, and they're the most knowledgeable people to be still involved in development. I mean, everyone has their ideas, but even like certain word formatting, or if you miss a capital on a certain keyword, you know, it's easy to overlook that stuff. Like we have one superstar where when they have, you know, a certain number of cards in play, they have an effect. Where Creed was like, how are you going to do it when they can only be played at this together, a pair, and then you want an odd number in play to do the effect? Well, it's like, oh, you know, the group of us, you know, totally missed it this entire time. So then it's back to the drawing board and, you know, move some ideas around and fix it there. So, I mean, I'm glad that they're still involved with the development of things.
Yeah.
Because they're essential eyes to have on the product we want to bring out for everyone.
Nice. Yeah. Do you have an ETA about when Virtual 11 might be coming out? Is there a time frame you guys shooting for? People be like, well, we have all this downtime. We have a pandemic going on. No one's doing anything. I mean.
And well, I've been lucky with that, with the downtime for people. My work has still been like going on this whole time. I've been lucky where some of the developers have been able to play test a lot of early stuff throughout all of this through the online platforms. I mean, ideally it'd be September, October timeframe, like we did with Virtual 10 for it to come out. But this set's bigger than Virtual 10 because we're introducing a lot of non-superstar specific cards to freshen things up. And we have there are ideas in there that are kind of out there, but we want to change up the meta a little bit and introduce new cards, because it's the problem with Raw Deal right now is about half the decks are almost the same cards because you need that reversal pool with the game.
Correct. Yeah.
So, and when you're messing with ideas like that, when you want to change up what people essentially pack, you need to be more deliberate with what you're putting in. Mm-hmm. So we'll see if it even makes the cut, or I mean, we have a few other ideas on how to do this, but nothing is like solidified in this time. But we're hoping September, October. I mean, if it comes down to it, if we're pushing late in the year, we'll just cut some cards that don't meet the quality that the team wants, and then add it into a later set.
So that you're mentioned that some mix things up. Are we looking at some potential new mechanics?
No new mechanics at this time that I can recall. It's just a lot of decks are like 3 Revo, 3 get the F out, 3 once is enough, or you go manager interferes, king interferes.
So funny, and everything you mentioned about what's the same, it's all classic stuff, not
and that's it, where you look at deck lists online, like we're seeing a frequency of people building decks and everything and sharing the lists. They all follow the same theme. It's the same red cards that are in there. So it's a motivator to get some things changed up. So you're not seeing the same cards in every deck all the time.
Okay. You're going to be prepared for this potential backlash on that, huh?
We're not throwing back backlash yet. So, I mean, we got to get used to the regular old backlash from everybody when these cards come out. But I mean, and if it comes down to it, if people are able to find loopholes or issues with these cards, fortunately, we have a majority of the players are accommodating and want to point this stuff out, so we can add a revision or an immediate errata, because we still want to continue on with these large scale tournaments, with like online events and try to do prize support, or we need to have a Worlds this year, so we have to be prepared to do a large scale event with that.
Do we need to have a Worlds this year?
I think it would be good to have a Worlds this year because there are more people in the game than I think there have been in years. We have an online platform with Octagon that works really well, unlike Lackey. Lackey wasn't supported from the developer for a long time, so you always have your crashes.
Yeah.
We're in the second tournament that people have organized, and they've both been going off very well, aside from player availability. But that's on the player to ensure they can do that. And going into the second event, it's been going well.
But we are in July already. So if we were to hold a Worlds, don't you want time to promote that?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to hold it next month and give everyone a month's notice. It's just a matter of evaluating, is the platform sustainable for everyone? Is a week per game too long? Is it too little of time? Because you can't run an online event in a weekend.
No.
You can't do 6-7 rounds in a weekend. So what do you want your timeline to be? I mean, we could start it in August or September and run it until the end of the year, because it's just with the platform, and no one's paying entry. It's a matter of who wants to come in, who wants to play. They're not spending the money to go to a Gen Con and play. They're not putting in money for entry in order to try to win a replica title.
For doing Worlds, if you pull off Worlds this year, is there prize support? Is anybody getting anything out of it besides alternate art cards or anything?
I mean, we're still discussing it. Before, it was create your own card. There have been good and bad things to come out of that. There have been great cards. When you have someone that have particular ideas that you feel that doesn't work towards the vision of the sets, it could be difficult. But I've been working with other people, like previous world champions, to try to get cards into the game, and there have been compromises that are in development right now, and that they seem to be at least satisfied with in my conversations. But no, we want to have a world champion be rewarded with an idea, to get their input in the game, because I mean, if they're at that caliber of player where they're able to win something, well, I feel they should have a say into content that's put into the game.
Sure.
Whether or not it's, a non-specific card or a superstar specific card, or, a promotional superstar, it's, it comes up to the conversations and like what we want to advertise, because we need to be committed to ensuring they get what they put their time and effort into, because it's disappointing for them afterwards, and it could discourage them from wanting to continue to play the game, and other players to want to play the game at that competitive level, because it's like, well, you said one thing, well, now I'm not getting it. Why did I put all this effort into it?
Yeah. How many people are signed up for, was it, it's at Octagon, right? So I'm not on this. I've never used the service before, so I've never even used Lackey either. So I just recently joined Discord for the first time, as a matter of fact. So how many people are playing that? Like, what's the player base?
So for the current event, it's being run as a King of the Ring style event, so single elimination. I think it was 21 or 22 players for single elimination rounds. And then we did a Swiss style event beforehand, and I think it was 16 players running around a week, cutting into top 4 and into the finals.
You're getting a wide range of people. Like, are anybody from Singapore playing, or Chile playing, or the UK, or?
Oh yeah, you're getting people worldwide, and everyone in the Discord. Discord is the primary method of people communicating to try to time things, but you're seeing your results on Team Canada Online as well. But I mean, you have people with a 12-hour difference that are able to coordinate over 7 days. Honestly, if you can't get a game in 7 days, you know, you weren't committed in the first place to play in the event. And then at that point, you know, it's just a call. Like, another player who can't get it arranged when your other player is willing to, they're like, oh, I'll just concede. And then in a single elimination event, you know, they're just out of it.
They're done. Well, that's great. I like to see, I mean, I like to see Worlds for 2020, meaning that, you know, 20th anniversary and all stuff like that would be kind of great. I mentioned it, who was I talking to? I don't know if I mentioned it on the air or whatever, but I had, with my connections and working with so many different wrestlers like that, especially directly with WWE, I was in the early stages for 2018, planning for 2019. Thank God I didn't do it. Or no, 2019 for 2020, and thank God I didn't do it. I was going to try and bring back some old school comic images supported type of prize support, in the sense that I was in talks, and it looked pretty solid. I was going to get at least one ticket to the winner for WrestleMania. That was going to be the prize. It basically get your own ass there kind of concept, but you still have your guaranteed one ticket to WrestleMania.
And like, that would be a motivator for someone to go to Gen Con and participate in Worlds.
But I think the days of Gen Con are kind of over. I really do. I think for a world championship type of stuff, with today's technology and how people want to play now, and to bring a bigger player base in, it's a lot of work to travel there, to pay an entry to get in, then to pay a fee to play, and devote your time when you're around so much other stuff. Because most of you guys are into a lot of different CCGs. I never have. I've only known one game my whole life. Outside of Super Show, that's a whole different discussion. But I mean, I only know Raw Deal. That's all I know. I've never played Pokemon. I never played Yu-Gi-Oh. I never played Magic. So I don't know anything else besides Raw Deal. So for you guys going into like Gen Con, it's kind of like a kid in a candy store kind of thing. You want to experience everything. And if you're devoting yourself to this game, that's a lot of your time, especially for Raw Deal, because it plays out a long time. So I like the idea of going, you know, on virtual, and I'm kind of hoping that it blows up to like bigger player bases.
And it's a better representation of what a world, what a world's event is. Now, when it comes to like Worlds, like it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when it's going to start over Octagon. You know, I have like my own personal stashes of prizing. Like, I've gone to autograph signings and had my own signature cards signed. Like, for the North American Championship, I was able to donate a Kevin Owens and a Rusev signed signature cards, like front and back, as a part of it. And, you know, like you spend a lot of your personal time over the years getting these autographs, and able to donate those. You're fortunate where you're able to do a lot of it through your work, but there have been times where I'm sure you have waited in lines, or waited, you know, hours to get.
I don't do lines. I'm spoiled. I mean, for getting like CM Punk, when I got him to sign cards, that was not with me sitting him saying, "Hey, Mr. Punk, would you sign these cards for me?" It just didn't work that way. At the time, I was working with Lita, and she was dating him at the time. So I asked her if she would be able to get him to sign some. So she goes, "Yeah, how many do I?" I said, "With five." I said, "Yeah, five's great." I gave her the five. She came back with two, and he was not pleased signing those, I was told. So, I mean, I've had those instances, but I'd say, you know, 98% of what I've gotten signs like that has been me in person saying, "Hey, you know, can we get this signed real quick? Because I'm working with this person, or I know the person working with that person saying, hey, can I get this signed like that?" But definitely a little bit easier for me. In some cases, I have paid, and most cases I haven't. But time and travel, adds up.
Oh, absolutely. I'm lucky where I'm near Toronto. So when when WWE came into town for those events, there would be autograph signings, but you're paying to get into those. But I'm doing it like me personally, I have my set of 3 signatures I always use with my decks. I have like 2 sets of 3 I'll always reveal. And then everything else on top of that either goes thematically with the superstar I'm building. Like if I were to build Alexa Bliss, I have a Nikki Cross to go with it. I have a Lucha House Party set of 3 that I could put with a deck that I want to put along with that.
Yeah.
But I'm not always going to use these. So these are prizes that I'm going to put up for Worlds. It's just a matter of, it's like, okay, do you put an expectation where if you want these prizes, winner pays postage? So if I have to mail out a prize to Chile, that could be expensive postage. So that's just a conversation that has to be had with the public.
Yeah.
And what people are willing to do if they perform to a certain point. Like I love to get everyone a promo in their hand. It's unrealistic. Logistically, if I have 50 people signing up, everyone paying postage, it's a matter of can I coordinate everything? Is every parcel going to get to every player? It's too unreliable. So it's a matter of, what do people want out of playing in a Worlds? And then those top placing players, how do we reward them for doing well in a 20th anniversary event, like on top of that as well?
Yeah. I mean, what do people want these days? I've given a lot of stuff over the years. I've given thousands and thousands of dollars of stuff away over the years. I've given belts away. When I inherited the RBD comic book store, I mean, I had 30 replica belts that came with the store. And some of them I didn't really realize. I had a whole bunch of those US spinner belts that were all signed by John Cena. I had no idea they were all signed by him.
Holy cow.
So, I mean, when Adam Kreitz was around, I donated one to him, and he donated it for an auction when he worked at a hospital. And, I went for almost $1,000 for that belt because it was signed by, I said, I had no idea it was signed. He goes, yeah, you said it again, you a signed belt. I go, I had no idea it was signed. I just gave it to you in the case, and I just, US spinner belt, there you go. I had no idea it was signed. But I've given those away, for prize over the years. Pay-per-view chairs signed by 30 wrestlers and, things like that. I mean, are those days gone? People don't want that kind of stuff. Signed 8x10, signed magazines. I mean, is it all just about the cards now?
I think it's a big part of it is the cards, but with a print and play game, what do you give them that's new? I think the days of prize cards are gone. That was a big problem with the Comic Images days of Raw Deal, where your best players were getting the best cards and they continued to be the best players because they had it. The Big Show guest ringside announcer was a big card because it was guaranteeing you were going first, getting rid of it showtime. A Vince McMahon guest ringside announcer was ensuring that you have a stipulation, you're blanking their stipulation, and you have a reversal in ring. The United States title belt was like the bane of people's existence with the combination of calling you out in an old school wrestling match. The Raw Deal 5th anniversary card is packed in every deck. And that was a big problem with the game is that the best keep getting better, and everyone that couldn't perform at that level weren't able to catch up unless they were willing to put money into it in the secondary market.
Right.
And then that's just, does it become a money game at that point? I mean, you're already buying your blind booster packs. You're forced to buy starter decks if you want to run a particular superstar, because you couldn't get those cards outside of like then eBay. I think it was only one available back then. And so it's like you were saying, what drives people to go to something for prizes? You know, people love replica belts. There's some people that are dead set against it. Alternate art cards only go so far, especially now with more and more people able to Photoshop alternate art cards.
Mhm.
Just a matter of like, oh, I'll just make it myself. You know, why am I paying $20 for this event when all I'm getting is foil variants on existing cards and alternate art cards?
I can just, design my own and go to make playing cards and print my own. That's what they want to do,
Yeah, so like those autograph chairs and autograph belts. Some people can't stand autographs. They see no value in it. Like the backstage signature, signing appearance, and autograph session, they were playable cards and decks, despite what autograph was on it.
Mm-hmm.
People may want certain autographs on certain cards. Like, there might be a really big Kane fan. Well, he's only going to want that Kane signed one. And then he has 3 other ones that are sitting in a box somewhere.
Yeah.
But when you have a game that hasn't been produced, for retail for as long as this one has, the motivator for people to play is the fact that they like the game. So that's where it comes with development, is you keep creating a game they like to play. And I think any prizing is just icing on the cake for something that they're enjoying to play.
How do you think that affects the retail side of things, though?
What do you mean? Like, because it's not readily available retail.
Still plenty of product out there, despite popular belief. There's still plenty of product out there between, a place like VelaCards or Carte Blanche or Category 1. There's still eBay. There's still Amazon that sells merch, stuff on once in a while. There's guys on the Facebook groups that are constantly moving and rotating product all the time. I'm talking Comic Images product all the time. So it's not as, oh my God, it's so hard to find as it is. It's just that you have to be looking where you want to look, and some people are picking things up when they can pick it up. Some things are more limited, but if that mentality is just, well, people just want to play because they love the game, there's really no point in any type of prize support. It's just about playing the game, and we're just going to keep printing out stuff all we want. What does that say about the old Comic Images product then? Does that stuff even have any value anymore?
Oh, it absolutely has value. It has value because
obviously I have a financial interest in it, because it's also, obviously my one of my businesses. So if it's something that's like a dried up thing, I'll be happy to just sell out and be done with it. I'll move on to something else. I have no problem with it. But I'm just kind of wondering what the mindset is of a normal player nowadays, of like, is that still worth anything?
I think it is, because if they're liking the virtual sets, they're going to go out and buy the product because they want to have the cards in hand to keep building more decks for the more available, for the wider range of available superstars there are. You look at Hills Wholesale Gaming, they've sold out of all their sealed booster boxes from what I had heard, where they sat on that for years.
Trust me, I go and doing Steel City Con every year, 3 times a year. I would talk to them all the time. They had a huge giant booth there because they're located out of Pittsburgh, in that area. And every year he'd ask me to, buy me out. It's like that. It's back when he still had bash boxes. Buy me out. I'm like, we come with a number, and it's like, okay, well, even if I could afford to pay that right now, which I can't, how am I going to get it all from you to me at the time in California? It's like that. It's just, so I'm happy to see that he sold out of boosters finally, but good for him.
But like the retail market, because of the resurgence of the game with the COVID pandemic, you have people digging through their collections out there wanting to get their cards and continue to play. You have people playing webcam games now with their physical cards because people just specifically want physical cards, and then print out the virtual ones or get the virtual ones done in a card stock. So like the retail, I think there's still retail. There's retail for any dead card game.
Yeah.
You have Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a big one still. I haven't played. I follow a Facebook group that is dead CCG cards or dead card game. I forget what it's called. You have people on there selling, they're actually selling like $1,300 Dragon Ball Z cards, one card for that type of money. Versus system is still huge. With their,
Category 1 specializes on all those older dead games.
Yeah, and there's still the market for it. As you know, there's still the market for wrestling. And much like with comic books and the television series, wrestling is timeless. You know, if you like Road Dogg, you like Road Dogg from that time period, and that time period is always going to be available there. So you can get that cards, and you have that nostalgia for it, because it's not like hockey or something where you want to get those more current ones. I'm not a big hockey fan, so people may absolutely disagree with what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
how dare you being Canadian and not be a hockey fan?
I understand the fundamentals, but when you're near Toronto, all you hear is the Leaf fans all the time, and it's like, oh. But as far as when it comes to prizing for a raw deal, like, you know, do you do sealed product for prizing? Do you put a play set of Revolutions as a prize for that? Does that motivator for people to play is you put up these harder to get cards that have the value?
So that may say, is it even worth my time getting anything else signed anymore? That's my point. I mean, for me.
I mean, me personally, I love signed the backstage signature cards, because I'm still going out and doing it, and then I'm going at a set. It's like, I don't use these. I like looking at them. It depends on the players. I mean, you have people walking around at live shows with replica belts. I've seen it where they have the belts pinned to their shoulder because they don't want to hold it the whole time.
Yep.
And that they were going through the security monitor. They had to unpin the whole thing just to go through it. So, I mean, you're going to have fans of different variant of availability for like signature cards, signed belts, cards, signed physical belts. I mean, those interests are always going to be there for everyone. It's just a matter of what are people willing to do to have access to that stuff. Like, you could have a Worlds event with 50 people. You can have 5 signed backstage cards and they'll go right away. Or you could have a different pool of people and then no one would be interested in it. It's just a matter of...
It came to the SoCal area. I think I really spoiled the hell out of those guys, because every event we had, it was always signed stuff. I mean, some of those guys have some amazing things. I mean, even back in the day before I was really into selling, I just started selling. And I had told the story before, it's like that, but I had inherited Alan. I was very good friends with Alan and Hank from Comic Images. They really always took good care of me. And when I went to WrestleMania 2000, in Anaheim, they had a booth there, and I was interested in their trading cards. They saw the trading card license, and they were just debuting this new game called Raw Deal, and they gave me a press kit of it, so it was multiple pages of Raw Deal, sample images of the cards, and they gave me a deck of Stone Cold and a deck of The Rock, all squared, all with the WrestleMania preview exclusive stamping on the back of every card. Had I known now what I knew then, it's like, you know then what I know now. I would never gotten rid of those, but I gave them away as prize. And those are probably worth gold right now, but you know, it's hard to tell what people are into and what they want like that. So I'm never sure if, like, I have a stack of all these unsigned, you know, BAS cards like that, the version 3.0 versions. And do I continue to go out and get them signed? Do I not? I don't even know at this point. So.
And then we're fortunate now versus when Raw Deal was in product, where we're able to engage communities and actually feel people out, and not just anonymously, where with Facebook, you know, people will have, you know, their voices heard and their name is attached to it. So it's as easy as putting out a poll as like, you know, is it worth it? I mean, and you have your customers, and, you know, any Raw Deal fan is going to be engaged in various forms of Raw Deal social media, where it's like, you know, what do you want out of prizing? You know, what do you like signature cards? You know, are you willing to pay shipping and postage for this prizing for a free online event? You know, it's a matter, because with the game now, it's, I said it earlier, it's the people that keep the game going. You know, for you, if there were no players, you wouldn't have a business. Yeah. If for me, if there were no players, well, I'm just wasting my time making what are essentially fantasy cards that will be rarely played. So it's a matter of what do people want, and then how do we get that to them? For all I know, you know, if you put up a replica title for an online event, you know, 30% of the people would be willing to pay postage for it. But then, is someone willing to donate a belt for a free event? You know,
I also had that for this this year, for last year, if I would have prize support, I had that as well. I have a classic style. I don't carry belts anymore. All I have was because I inherited the comic book store. That was it. But somebody gave me the belt, and I have a replica belt, the Winged Eagle belt, signed by Kurt Angle and Chris Jericho, both signed it. I thought, I don't want it. I don't need it. I could probably easily put it up on eBay and sell it if I wanted to, but I don't even do eBay. So maybe they'll just give it as a prize. But let's find out what the player base is, and if there's enough people to warrant me sending it out to a world championship. Like, that's why I took 2019 off. I'm like, I'm kind of tired of just sending this prize to the same 5 guys. It's like, I might as well just go ahead and say, here's a bunch of stuff, divide it amongst yourselves and have fun.
Yeah, and that's the issue with that, where it's like Gen Con is usually the same players who are usually there for other reasons as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have Super Show now, which is I think the only active retail wrestling card game now. So
well, yeah, wrestling card. Besides the old Slam Attacks from Topps, that's more of an international UK type of thing. But yeah.
But I don't think you're going to get the representation for that game that you would like a Super Show for that. So you have a lot of cross pollination. I mean, the creator of Super Show was a top performing Raw Deal player.
Yeah, he came to one of my Adam Kreitz events. Steve came out there and he brought us and I have it somewhere in a box somewhere. I have like the demo of the New Age Outlaws one he did for his Super Show games like that. And yeah, it's he was a big time player.
So it's difficult with prizing. I mean, for me to offer prizing, it's like, oh, hey, if you win, I'll do you some exclusive alternate art cards that you print off at home. But I mean, is that going to please enough people to be a motivator, or is just the fact, the bragging rights to be a world champion enough? Yeah. So it's tough. It's a matter of what do people want at the end of the day, what keeps them going.
Gotcha. Well, we've gone over an hour already, hour and some odd minutes. I can't remember how long we've gone. But where do you see, I got a couple, two more things, and then we can probably wrap it up, I guess. Where do you see virtual going? Is there like a direction you're looking to go to? I know you said you got some cool little things coming out, so like that. Is it a step into some direction you guys want to take virtual to? You have a long-term plan here, like you have a long-term plan.
I mean, ideally, long-term, I would like to see a diverse variety of decks. Not so much a variety of superstars, but of deck construction. I mean, right now you have like your backed by Vicky Guerrero pre-match where it's a lot of smackdown maneuvers. You have a mechanic that has a lot of blank maneuvers, volley chain heat, but the fundamentals of the decks are usually the same in Arsenal. So it's changing that up where it's like, okay, am I going to run these 3 Revolution of the Minds, or am I going to run this reversal suite with this series of action reversals? The idea is to, by the time virtual is all said and done, if it ever ends, for all I know, Scott's kids are going to pick it up 15 years from now and start developing. I want something to be like, okay, I could build Triple H. Okay, there's 25 different ways I can build him. Maybe that's excessive, but it's like there's so many different ways. You have 4 people build him, and there's 4 different decks. And the only thing they have in common are specifics and 10 other cards. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of repetition with deck construction.
Arsenals always seem to be, like you said, the Arsenals always seem to be relatively the same based on whether you're face or heel, basically. Those little mechanics, but they're almost all the same. It almost seems like your uniqueness now lies in your backlash, now in your pre-match phase, like that. Like, what can I do to manipulate everything I can possibly can to have my generic deck?
Yeah, and the idea is I would like to have the arsenals changed. Like you were saying, a lot of them are the same. Okay, well, let's change that. And that's the idea that you'll see in Virtual 11 is it's just the first steps into ensuring that is the direction we're going to go in.
So your thought process going forward is a multi-release type of change then, not just Virtual 11 is going to introduce a whole new change set for an Arsenal construction. and you're either going to get a huge amount of people bitching and complaining about it, or a whole like, God, but this is totally what we needed. Is it going to be just this one, or over a couple of releases?
It'll be over a couple of releases. Like we don't have anything on paper, but like there are ideas like in the headspace. This one's really ambitious because there are some stuff people may not be happy with that are coming out that breaks the old formula. And then going
No,
forward,
my deck used to always win with these. Now you made it for fourth list.
oh, exactly. And going forward with releases is like the comic images. They were playtesting sets in advance. We don't have that. We don't have that capability. We're doing one set in a release. Me personally, I have ideas going forward for ideas where it's like, okay, this stuff's here now. You know, what can we put in the next set that changes what they're used to, and add like, you know, a fresh variety every set. You know, we
steps ahead.
Like we want to support mechanics that haven't been supported in a while. Like you did the technical, chain, heat, volley, dynamic. Like they get their support, but like the old comic images cards, you know, it got supported, didn't get supported past Great American Bash. Well, now we have mechanics that haven't been supported through virtual, be it old mechanics or new mechanics. Okay, how can we add variety to those? So now you can, you know, it's like a fork in the road for a heat deck. Okay, I can take it this way, or I could take it this way instead.
So we got a few releases coming out for that. So that's good. Yeah, so it seems pretty healthy. Like virtual seems to be pretty healthy. Like there's still some cool ideas coming out.
Well, yeah, and it is, especially with, sorry to cut you off, but with now myself in the development position, you know, I may have ideas that Creed and previous senior members didn't have, that I'm willing to, you know, get grief from the public. Like I'll go back to Revival. What do you mean they can't pack old school wrestling match? You know, it goes for that card support. Where, you know, my thought process with that is like, well, you don't want to end your turn, you want to throw moves every turn. So the whole with that. So, but they have the old guard with Creed and his majority of his team. They were able to go through the trial and error process. You know, they made mistakes. They had to revise it set over set to make sure it worked okay. Well, you know, I don't have that experience they have. But I'm willing to get grief from the public over it reluctantly.
You know, we actually, I have covered some questions that I've gotten from the people. Most of the stuff is kind of off the top of my head thing. When I do have my notes, I try to prepare myself for each one of these. I forgot I actually had some questions from some people that submitted some questions for you.
Okay.
And one of them was regarding asking if there's any plans for any cards we released that are face and cheater, heel, or fan favorite.
Yes. I believe you're going to see something from each this coming set. Off the top of my head, I know there's cheater support and fan favorite support. But the idea with these virtual sets is to support all the existing mechanics, including like face and heel.
Okay. Yeah, I actually kind of wrapped up several questions in that one right there. One person specifically asked about cheater. One person asked about fan favorite. So I just put them together.
And with like Virtual 11, there's Raw and SmackDown support that is coming.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Oh, for anything, you know, like it's kind of hard, like any ECW support or anything else at all, like that, or just.
No, right now we're just focusing with what is current.
Gotcha.
On the televised product. Okay. So NXT, Raw, SmackDown, gotcha. All of that is going to receive their fair share of support. Like Raw, for instance, isn't as packed. It's only packed usually for the King Interferes.
Gotcha.
So we're giving more reasons for Raw to be packed. SmackDown, you know, you're going to see something that diverts from the backed by Vicky Guerrero mechanic, nice. Where it doesn't let you pack Vicky Guerrero, but it's a new direction for SmackDown. And NXT is going to have a variety of different things. Not that they need more cards because they have so many non-superstar specific cards, but it's in its own exclusive direction that diverts from what's established for NXT, as well as promotes packing the previous NXT cards.
Any thoughts to a future, even though it's somehow my favorite format, but I don't give a shit what other people think. No support for Revolution ever coming in the future?
It was talked about internally. I'm not interested because I don't have the background with Revolution. I wouldn't do the format justice if I were to work on it. There were people in the development team that were working on it. This is going back last year is the last I heard about it. But like me personally, my interest isn't there. And I couldn't do it justice. But never say never. It's wrestling, right? Never say never.
Exactly. All right, so I want to wrap up with my own personal thing. I want to ask you is what happened to Backlash Podcast? Is that not going to be a thing anymore?
Now that stopped kind of abruptly.
It really did because it was probably the only podcast. I mean, I'm not a podcast guy. I mean, I other than Joe Rogan stuff, I'm not a big podcast guy. So, but I actually subscribed and paid attention and enjoyed your guys' podcast like that. So it's sort of a pseudo inspiration for me doing what I'm doing. And so I'm like, what happened?
It kind of ended. Scott and I didn't really have like an in-depth conversation to end. It just, hey, we're done. Our last episode, ended on a kind of not a downer, but uneventful. Like if we planned out ending it, it would have ended with the Mike Foley interview. It's difficult with this game to have ongoing news, ongoing conversations outside of just deck techs.
Mm-hmm. What you guys going to do, what you have, because you have multiple subject matters going on with your channels like that you have. And so you already have like a live streaming, I think, of like actual games being played, right?
Yeah. I mean, my personal channel, I did a whole variety of different Raw Deal related content. But for like the podcast proper, it's just the content wasn't there. For me personally, my personal thoughts on it is to make it every 2 weeks. You're unable to make it exciting enough to keep people engaged and tuning in with the formula we had.
Yeah.
So rather than continuing in that direction, I mean, we lost our last recording because my iPad just crashed entirely that we used. So we lost it. I mean, we had a tournament report of a sealed event we did, like a draft, Aussie draft.
Mm-hmm.
We did a big report there, and we lost that entirely and kind of just never continued from there.
Like, well, that's ruined. Fuck it, I'm done with this.
And that's my personality with things where it's like, oh, it didn't work. You get discouraged and just quit it entirely.
There could have been a whole lot of things because you guys really tackled everything virtual really at the time. So, I mean, you guys did a lot of stuff. I mean, you could have just tackled virtual superstars and broke those down, star by star.
Mm-hmm. And that would be difficult every 2 weeks when Raw Deal isn't the primary kind of focus in life. Mm-hmm. If you're breaking down a superstar, I don't think you're doing it justice with just theories. You want to be able to play them out to ensure that if you're giving people ideas, they're not just crappy ideas. You want to make sure that it's like, hey, we're a platform people are listening to. Let's give them the best quality we can. Otherwise, for me, I'm just putting out a show that, Jump the Shark, like Happy Days, Jump the Shark came from that, at what point do you you end it before it's like, oh, they're still going.
Oh God, I feel like I'm going to start jumping the shark here soon then myself. Then.
No, not at all.
This is a whole new experience for me. It's like that. I have a friend of mine who's she owns her own marketing business like that. And for my greening promotions business, I was like, how can I get more subscribers? How can I I don't have a channel, but more followers to my Instagram or my Twitter or whatever. And she's like, I think you should just get out there and have people see the person behind the product kind of thing. And so when this whole thing started with the pandemic, I thought, well, I can't do anything with green ink stuff anymore. Now I'm kind of like, I'm shot in the water. I had a nice booking event with Angle and I over in the UK. We were supposed to do that, got shot down. I still have what I'm supposed to do with him in Texas in September. I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm like, maybe I can take the same idea and concept of for green ink and do it for VelaCards stuff and make some content to keep people entertained about raw deal, especially since, like you said, there's a resurgence right now of raw deal stuff. And I'm seeing it not only in sales, but in discussions in groups. And there's constant communication going on Discord. Now that I joined Discord, seeing people talk, and I just kind of sit in the shadows and watch everything going on. And so I'm like, well, maybe I can apply this to VelaCard stuff and have these cool talks with guys like Eric, you know, and I don't know. We'll see if it keeps going. I don't know.
But the fortunate thing with YouTube as a platform is that as long as YouTube's up, the content's going to be there.
Yeah.
And then I'm noticing that with my personal channel. I haven't put out games in quite a bit of time, like the physical games. But with my views and my algorithms, you know, I'm seeing that people are still watching these. You have people coming back into the game that are watching these games, that are directing them to the Discord or to the Facebook groups, or even I get messages frequently of people asking me where different resources are, or, you know, how to find communities or even deck ideas. And It's like, oh yeah, like let's jam it out. Like if I have the time to talk about it, I'll absolutely talk about it.
Yeah, that was kind of my focus for VelaCards in the Facebook group, because it used to be the SoCal Raw Deal group. Moved everything over from that and just merged it all into VelaCards to kind of make it a one-stop shop for everything you wanted to know about Raw Deal, with, you know, documentation about what's in starter decks and a complete checklist of this, that, and the other. So people can just go there and go, oh, I want to build a Hulk Hogan deck. I can see a folder and see all the pictures of everything of comic images and virtual stuff, just in one shot.
And then I use the SoCal group all the time because it's still there, where if I need, like, you know, a superstar specific or two, I'll just go to that folder and put it on my word sheet to print it out as I'm on my way.
It's all on VelaCards now too, buddy. It's all there.
Yeah, so like that's been a resource for me over the years. Instead of downloading a file from TCO and plucking out the one card, I'm just getting those handful of cards I needed.
Yeah, that's it's how the whole idea is, like a one-stop shop type of place where you can go there and just get the information that you needed. But I'm noticing I'm, you know, doing these now. This is my fourth one now. I've done. It's getting a little easier for me, so I'm still developing a format and that kind of thing. And but I've been getting messages through Instagram and even through Twitter and Facebook. I'll get both my personal and VelaCards messaging, you know, talking about they're enjoying these like that. So I feel good about, you know, putting these out in some way, just having conversations with people who are knowledgeable like yourself, and just giving them some kind of content to work with and go, wow, that's learned some interesting, cool new things now. It's like, oh, maybe I'm going to check out Eric's, you know, YouTube channels like that to go check out some of those games and get some ideas on how to build a proper deck.
And that's what people find. Like, I know, I look back to it when I was younger, is like you see these figurehead individuals, like, you know, you and me, like, you know, we're figureheads for what we have established.
A little tiny niche.
So, and then people feel that we may not be accessible because, you know, we're so busy with other things. But with social media and even messaging or emails, even go back to that. Like, who emails anymore?
Yeah.
We're just, you know, they want to watch these types of conversations because it's like, oh, you know, we get to see people in it engaged in conversation because they may not feel like we're, you know, available for them to talk to.
Sure.
So I love this kind of stuff, you know, just hashing out, you know, just talking about a game that, you know, we all love and keep going after all these years.
Well, I'd love to have you back on again for some other tops like that. But actually, before we go, do you have anything that you could probably tease people with?
I happen to have some cards in front of me. That's a very good segue. So with Virtual 11, because there hasn't been new cards in a while, we're going to do a promo release sometime this month. Now, everything's still card subject to change. So I'm going to reveal 2 superstars. They're both going to release with a superstar specific card. Now with these, they could change from the time they're released in the set. So like when they're posted, it'll come with like a little blurb. But these are how they are in testing right now, and they've been tested longer than anyone else. So I'll show off. Oh, go ahead.
I got a funny feeling of who this might be, but go ahead.
Okay. So I've got Adam Cole here.
Nice.
He is well, that's not going too well.
No.
There we go. So he's a 4/3 NXT. When your opponent plays a maneuver, you may remove 1 card in your hand from the game. Then you may play your next reversal as if it were hybrid, non-hybrid, unique, and or played from Backlash. When you promo, you could put up to 2 cards not chosen on the bottom of your arsenal. So he's the type of deck, Adam Cole is resilient in the ring. He perseveres through a lot of things, as you've seen with his Johnny Gargano matches. So the idea is, well, he can make a comeback against anything. He can push through, and just whatever opponent throws at him, he's able to counter it because he's Adam Cole, baby.
Yeah, anybody out there who's an experienced deck builder is going to look at that probably and go, well, I could think of a million. That's broken. He's never going to die. It's a stall deck.
And the idea is Adam Cole is a meta shifter. I mean, you look at Ric Flair. Ric Flair changed what a lot of metas were. Goldberg was a big part because he was reversing from a different area, so he could get past a lot of different effects. Mm-hmm. So Adam Cole's going to be like one of those superstars where it's like, if you're playing in an area where you don't see a lot of those type of reversal restrictions, you may not use them, but he's going to have the card support that if you go up against those type of superstars, well, you're still playing him because he has his own toolkit that goes along with it.
Correct. People forget that. They just see like an ability or the card text of a card, but they don't realize that it can interact with other cards like that. And they just go, this is broken. Well, have you played everything else on it? Well, no, that's broken though. I can think of a million ways that thing is broken. Okay, well, wait for the rest of the cards to come out.
And the next one is like, by popular demand, I mean, he was a must put into the set. So we've got the Fiend.
That's what I thought.
Let's get this in focus.
It's a wicked looking card.
Yeah, these. If I had a proper camera here, so there we go. So he's a 6 hand size 4 value. During any turn, your superstar specific cards and maneuvers removed from the game without reversing the text can be played as if from hand. When you would apply 8 damage or less from your opponent's maneuver, you may instead remove the top 4 cards of your arsenal from the game and end his turn. You can only move cards removed from the game with superstar specific effects. Oh. So he can pack Bray Wyatt specific maneuvers, Mandible Claw, and No Cell maneuver, but he discards 1 less card to play it. And he can't pack allegiances or counterproductive ambitions. Okay. So the idea with the Fiend is he's a horror movie monster.
Yeah.
His ability allows him to he takes damage like Jason Voorhees. You attack Jason, he's going to shrug it off, but then he's going to sneak up on you and attack you. So that's the idea with the Fiend superstar card. Now
what can't he pack again?
He can't. Well, he has no packing restriction. He could play maneuvers without reversing the text and specific cards removed from the game as if from hand.
Okay, I know, but that bottom part of it.
Sorry, counterproductive ambitions or allegiances.
Okay.
So there are some themes with allegiances that work towards like his card support that I can't give away right now. And same goes with the named card. But I mean, when his full toolkit is revealed, that'll come to light. So his superstar card he's Jason. He's going to keep coming after you. That little damage he's shrugging off, and then he's going to sneak up on you, attack. But with his superstar card support, it's going to lean into the whole messes with your mind, psychological warfare part of what the Fiend and Bray Wyatt do on television right now. Mm-hmm. So that card won't be coming with the Fiend. When his full superstar set releases, you'll get the whole toolkit of that psychological warfare will be included with him. But with his promo alone, you're getting that horror movie monster feel for him.
You guys play test in just straight up classic, or do you do the all access as well?
We are not testing for all access at all.
So and for instance, I can think of some corners cards that would work pretty good for him.
Yeah, and you could run those, but when it comes to the large events, we've noticed you're either doing Revolution on its own or Virtual Classic on its own. Correct. So there isn't a need to test for that because at a Worlds or we saw with the North American Championship and FunkCon, All Access, either isn't popular or isn't a run format.
Yeah. I'm just curious. I knew that it wasn't being a run format anymore. For people who want to play all access, I don't know why you'd want to do that. But yeah. Cool.
And then even with the Fiend, if you want to run a corner, you could pretend it's like, oh, I have Puppet Ric Flair in my corner and I'm able to play his moves. Go with the whole theme that he's been doing on television.
I do it. Undertaker in my corner. Yeah. Those are the two?
Those are the two superstars that you'll be seeing released as promos in the next few weeks. It'll be available to print for those who are still building decks at home during the pandemic, and they'll be updated for Octagon for people to build decks and play it on there.
Awesome. That's great.
And then I'll drop another bit of news. So we have a play set of cards that is coming out that replaces a Revolution of the Minds. We're going to do a bit of an open beta. These cards are going to have a stamp or a part that's a play test or draft. So we want to get the public's opinion on these and have everyone test it out before it's released for the public. So they will be coming out alongside these two promotional superstars, and they are in it's an open play testing. So it gets everyone kind of some insight on the kind of what play testing's like. They can have their thoughts heard through various threads and means of communication. Mm-hmm. And then we're ensuring that we're releasing at least this set of cards. It's a trial run for an open play test, open beta, and see how it goes going forward.
Open beta, going the old format of Microsoft. Awesome. I think Microsoft products as a whole anyways, it's like all the releases are just open betas anyways.
Yeah. But we want to do away with the revisions. Like there's a revision patch coming out that's going to be a big one. In a perfect world, you would have no revisions.
Yeah.
So the idea of an open play test hopefully will help regulate that going forward, where people don't need to print off new cards and keep using their ink, and ensuring that they have the most updated cards when they're going to events. Because I've had that issue where I'm going with an outdated card. I didn't necessarily do my best due diligence to make sure I had that right card, but it's like, okay, how can we make sure that people don't have to worry about that?
Yeah, that's smart. Cool. Well, I'd love to have you back on again, sir. So hopefully maybe after the release comes out, or as we start coming closer to the release, we can start maybe just more sneak peeks and talk about Virtual 11.
Yeah, 100%. I'm in.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate your time. I know everybody's time is still kind of valuable. I know that people are still working. Some of us are just stay-at-home dads in the day. Yeah, I appreciate your time, man. I really do. It's nice to actually talk to you.
Yeah. We chat every so often, but it's not very often. You chat with people in the game, face to face as this could be. But it's
exactly. Like I said before, my talk with Nate, I'd never met Nate before. It's like that. I heard a lot of great things about him, and I look forward to talking to that guy every time now. I mean, we had a couple of really good sit-down sessions, and I would love to, just pick his brain some more about other stuff. It's just fun to talk to. Creed is Creed too, so I can always talk to Creed. So, but I'm looking to get some of the older guys on here and talk. I got all kinds of topics I want to do. I know D2 and I were talking about doing like a table for three type of thing where we have like a time limit of like less than 40 minutes, like a half hour or less, like that. Just having like, stories from the Raw Deal world kind of thing. Like there was going to call like, Adventures in Raw Deal Land or something, but we might do something called like Behind the Card or something like that.
And there's so many people still out there that can have their different stories of the games and traveling and the high stakes that were in the game.
I'm assuming you traveled the world before. You played in worlds before?
No. I mean, before FunkCon 2 years ago, we never traveled outside of our area to play in an event.
Wow.
But I was lucky.
In the old days, you might have gone at least Gen Con once.
No, never have. I mean, I was fortunate to have the Canadian qualifiers were in Toronto, so it was a quick draw. It was a day trip for us, but no, never anywhere else for the game.
Wow. Somebody that's heavily into Raw Deal that hasn't been to the Worlds. I mean, I only appeared at Worlds for a few hours, and I purposely did that on with Drew, was the only person who knew about it. I was doing an event in Jersey, and I changed my connection flight into Indianapolis during Gen Con weekend. So on a Friday night, I just showed up, and then there was Drew and I think Mitch were playing some games at the hotel that they were staying at. I ended up still Mitch was the only one who knew at that point, besides Drew. I stayed with Drew that night, and then I showed up at Gen Con the next day. It was like for several years in a row, it was an ongoing joke to see who would show up and become Tony Vella that weekend. So someone would take a picture of a Tony Vella badge, but it'd be somebody, not me, obviously. And so that year I actually showed up and wearing my own badge, and I had to take it off of Scott Mackey. Not Scott Mackey, Scott Hewlett.
Hmm.
And so I showed up, and it was like to meet the people that you meet from because of this game, and all these years later that you've developed friendships with, and like you still communicate with, even things that are not even Roger related. Like you just have a whole, oh, you like Marvel stuff? Me too. Oh, you like music stuff? Me too. You know, whatever. And you start having these relationships, and all because of a game brought you together. It's like that. It's just I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I have some qualifier stories to share, but we'll save that for next.
We'll save for next one. Yeah, definitely. So cool, man. Well, thank you again for your time, and I hope to talk to you again real soon.
I'm all in.
All right, man. Thanks, Eric.
You're welcome. See ya.